Welcome to the Girls Gone Sporty weekly live cooking show. So if this is your first time to tune in, we do these every Thursday night at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time, and we do them live. So what's happening in front of you right now is happening right now as I speak. So what we'll be cooking up today is a vegetarian teriyaki noodles recipe. Now the other night I needed something carby, and I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted, but I was looking around and I knew we had teriyaki sauce and I knew we had noodles, and I was like, I'm gonna make teriyaki noodles, which my husband thought was crazy pants, and he was like, what are you thinking? You're gonna make teriyaki noodles? And I was like, yes, and they were delicious, like awesome. So I had to bring them here for you today. They're really easy. I've already got my water boiling. It's just a matter of turning on this front burner here to get this pan hot. Because I'm using sesame oil for this recipe, I'm having all my temperatures on medium-high heat. That's what it is designed for. Just so you know, when I boil water, I always season the water. So in addition to putting some salt in there, I've also put a little bit of sesame oil as well, just to get that going. So while this starts to heat, I'm gonna go ahead and throw my pasta into the boiling water. I always break my pasta in half and little pieces fly everywhere, just to make it more manageable on a fork. I don't know, I may be weird, but that's what I do. And I don't really measure how much pasta. I always figure if I make too much, there will be leftovers. So just throw some more pasta in there. Let that start to cook up. And over here, so you know, this is a very straightforward recipe. We've got the pasta boiling. We've got a skillet that's getting hot, and we've got tons of veggies. They are listed if you're watching this on YouTube, and later if you're watching it on the Girls Gone Sporty website, they'll be listed. The ingredients are listed below, so check those out. But we have roughly 5 to 6 cups of vegetables here. So about half of a sweet onion sliced, and then I have about a half cup to a cup, somewhere in there, of julienned carrots. And I have to say, my local grocery store carries them in a bag, so I just grab the bag so I don't have to actually do any of those slicing or cutting. And then what amounts to probably about 2.5 total bell peppers. When I made it the other day, I made it just with green bell peppers and used 2 of them. And today when I was at the store, I was like, oh, I want more color. So I got, yellow, red, orange, and green. And so total, this is probably about 2.5. So I have 1 green bell pepper, and then about a half of the red, a half of the yellow, and a half of the orange peppers here. So in addition to that, I have 4 tablespoons of sesame oil. Now I'm just going to put about 1 tablespoon in here. That's probably a little bit more. 1 tablespoon, start getting it a little bit hot. And then I've got garlic cloves. I used just plain garlic powder the other day, so you could absolutely do that. And then I have crushed red pepper. I love me some heat. You can always leave that off if you're not a fan of the spice. So I'm going to go ahead and pop a couple of these garlic cloves into the sesame oil. Start getting that going. All right. I'm putting 4 of them. You can obviously put whatever you want. I like garlic. Some people would say my 4 is overkill, but I've been known to overkill spices. That's kind of my shtick. So it is what it is. And I'm not actually a huge, I bought this garlic press the other day. I used to have a really great one, and I'm not a huge fan of this one. It's just kind of a little bit of a pain. But I bought it, and so I'm using it. All right, and I am realizing right now that my spatulas are actually in the dishwasher. They're clean, no worries, but I'll have to grab one. Perfect. So as the garlic starts to get a little bit brown and crispy around the edge, really starts to show its flavors. Whew, and it is flavorful because my eyes are taking some heat from the heat in the garlic. Go ahead and stir that around a bit too. Now I happen to use whole wheat pasta. You can use whatever kind of pasta you want. So if you wanted to make this a gluten-free version, you could. I was in the grocery store today looking at all the kind of awesome different options they have now for gluten-free noodles. Everything from black bean noodles to rice noodles to all sorts of stuff. I don't even know. So I'm just dumping all of that in there. And it's a lot of veggies. But the whole point of this is to make it as healthy as possible, and veggies are, especially when you eat the rainbow like this with all the orange and yellow and red and green, I mean, talk about cancer fighting, body do well nutrients you've got going on here. A little bit of everything. And if you didn't know, onions and garlic, they are considered prebiotics. So unlike probiotics, which you've probably heard it's in yogurt and in fermented type foods, good for the gut, good bacteria. Prebiotics help you make your own probiotics in your gut. So if you can get foods with prebiotics in them, like onions, like garlic, that's a good thing. So we're just stir frying this up here. So I have it on medium-high heat. So it's not necessarily, it's gonna take a little bit longer to stir fry, but I just love the flavor of the sesame oil. It's got the roasted sesame oil. It's just got such a great flavor by itself. You can even use it for like dressings on its own. The goal here is to get these vegetables cooked through, but not overcooked, so not like soggy. So you want them still to have just on the inside, maybe just a hair of crispness. Consider it al dente vegetables. So cooked, but just not quite done. And if you have some wine at home, I hope you pour yourself a glass and enjoy it, because I have a giant glass right here. I wasn't really intending on having this much wine, but I have this fabulous, I'm a boxed wine drinker, and I am no fancy pants here. But I have this very cool boxed wine dispenser. I don't know if you can see this right over here. This boxed wine dispenser is amazing, but the boxed wine I got was a little bit too big for the dispenser. So I had to dispense myself a nice big glass of wine so that the bag of wine would fit into the dispenser. Good excuse, right? If you're a wine drinker, wine lover, you don't look a gift horse in the mouth. I'm a messy cooker. I fling stuff all over the place. I figure it's how I live my life. So why put on airs when this just is what it is? I just am what I am. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and add some of the crushed red pepper. Now, obviously you can do this to taste. I like some spice. I think the onion I used the other day, I think had a little bit extra spice to it than maybe these will. These are sweet onions, those are yellow onions. And it ended up a little bit spicier than I had actually intended, but I didn't mind it. So just add some crushed red pepper based on your personal preferences. No need to add any if you don't like it. And if you're unfamiliar with cooking with whole wheat pasta, a couple things to note. First of all, a lot of pastas are fake whole wheat. So if it says whole wheat, look for something underneath it that usually says blend. That's a surefire tip that it's not actually whole wheat. Look for the whole wheat pastas that say 100% whole wheat. Otherwise, it's not actually whole wheat. Food manufacturers have their little ways of getting around you and tricking you into thinking that things are healthy when they're actually not so much. So I'm gonna go ahead. Whole wheat pasta takes a little bit longer to cook than your kind of white pasta. Particularly for me, I don't like pasta al dente as much. I prefer kind of not overdoing it, just letting it go to just a little bit longer than maybe the 8 to 10 minutes that the box recommends. But let's be real, I just taste it and see what I like. Is it there? Is it not? Not a whole lot of timing going on over here. My food, my kitchen is my lab. So I don't pay too close attention to the amounts of stuff or the lengths of time. I just pay attention and test things and see what I like, see if it needs more, see if it needs less. Cooking, there are no rights or wrongs in cooking. There might be bads and betters. So you can have a bad experience. But take my chimichanga recipe from last week. Ended up looking disastrous. And I kind of made a fatal error by not picking up the correct type of wraps at the grocery store. But the actual taste was delicious. So if you happen to go back and watch that chimichangas one, the one thing I'd say is definitely don't do like me and forget to pick up actual, tortillas. My use of spring roll wrappers didn't hold up well, but they tasted delicious. So that was maybe a bad kitchen experience, but it wasn't a bad learning experience. So next time I'll know. All right, so those are still cooking up. I turned off the heat on my pasta, so I'm gonna go ahead and drain this. And I don't do anything fancy for draining the pasta either. I just hold the pasta in place with my spatula and pour the water down the drain. All right, so that is more or less ready to go. Once these are ready to take them. Very little left to do in this recipe. I'd like my peppers and my carrots, since they're more dense, harder vegetables than the onions. The onions are like pretty much getting pretty perfect here. I'd like the peppers and the carrots to get a little bit softer. But we're well on our way. And so we end up having, I don't know if you can see this pot right here, we end up having a lot more vegetables than we do pasta. But trust me, it doesn't hurt the recipe at all. It's, A, makes it way healthier, and B, it all just tastes delicious. All right, so what I'm gonna go ahead and do before I add the pasta in, I'm gonna add a little bit more crushed red pepper because I really just can't help myself. And then I'm gonna add a little bit more of the oil because the flavor is so nice. And I'm gonna start adding some of my teriyaki. Now I'm not gonna go overboard yet because I'm gonna add more. Teriyaki, it's pretty much sugar. Like there's not much nutritional value in teriyaki sauce. This happens to be a gluten-free teriyaki. So if you were wanting to make this a gluten-free recipe with gluten-free noodles, this is absolutely something you could do. But I'm just gonna start kind of getting the flavor intermixed in the veggies alone before adding the noodles in. Smells amazing. I had never had teriyaki until, gosh, I should know the exact year, 2005. 2005. That was the first time we moved up to Oregon and lived there for a year and a half before we moved back to Texas, and then another year and a half before we moved back to Oregon again. But up in the Pacific Northwest, there's a lot more Asian cuisine, at least then, than there was in the Texas area where I was living before. Now there's a lot more Asian cuisine down here too, but I had never had teriyaki, and it was one of the first things my husband wanted us to go try when he saw a restaurant that was dubbed just as teriyaki. And so since then, since we moved back to Texas, we just don't go out to eat much, but love me some teriyaki. Now you could absolutely add some protein to this of your choice. You could add chicken or beef, or I suppose you could even do shrimp, all sorts of options if you want. I happened to make it vegetarian the first time, and it was so good that I was like, why mess with a good thing? But it would be very easy to just throw some chicken in here as well. So I think these veggies are pretty darn good. So all I'm gonna do is add the noodles there, add the remainder of the sesame oil right over the top of those noodles, get them all sesamied up. And I'm gonna go ahead and stir this around a little bit, start mixing the vegetables and the noodles. I'm glad I opted for those red, yellow, and orange peppers because it's just looking so colorful and flavorful. So pretty, we're almost done. All right, so all that's left is getting a little bit more teriyaki in here. Now, I did add it up just because I like to have a general idea of what I'm putting into my body without becoming overly obsessed with things like fat calories and just calories in general. I pay attention, but I don't believe in obsession. I think that's an unhealthy place to live and place to be. So I do make conscious decisions about how I cook my food, but I'm also not going to kill myself for adding something that's basically sugar, like teriyaki sauce, into this. So in this whole thing, there were about 200 calories. So if I use even just half of it, and I won't use half of it, probably a quarter or so, because I had about half left, mixing that in there. Even a quarter, you're looking at 50 calories total that you're adding to the whole meal. And even though it's basically sugar, it's actually not a whole ton of sugar per serving, so it's not a bad way to go in terms of sauces. Just, don't drown your veggies and your noodles in the sauce of your choice. Just be smart about it. But for the most part, this isn't too bad. All right, now I'm gonna take, there's just a little bit more. I don't like to waste my sesame oil, it's so good. And a little bit more teriyaki. And we are done. That is the whole shebang. quick, easy, almost no, I mean, obviously I was standing here stirring vegetables, but aside from that, like there's really no effort to it at all. We're talking less than 20 minutes for the whole thing. And if you wanted to make chicken, chicken takes less than 20 minutes to cook up as well. So just throw it in there. Shrimp, I think, would be even faster. A couple minutes boiling water. I don't know how long it takes. I don't make a lot of seafood, so I won't pretend to know, but I don't force myself to eat things I don't like, and I'm just not a seafood person. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and scoop some of this into my bowl. Like a little bit of heaven in my mouth. So we have at least, I mean, I'm going to eat at least 2 servings of this. I'll just be honest. But we have at least 4 servings here. So could definitely feed a family, especially if you added some protein in there, really round out the meal. But I'm not shy about admitting that I eat a lot. And I got back from a run not that long ago. So that is that. I'm gonna take a bite just to verify that it's every bit as good as it was the other day, and because I'm hungry and I'm ready to eat. Oh yeah. Might even be better. So good, so good. Make this at home. I'm gonna go eat. I'm gonna take some pictures. I'm gonna clean up the mess that I've made. I hope this was fun for you. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and be sure to check out Girls Gone Sporty and subscribe to that newsletter, because that's where we put out all the reminders of what we're cooking up each week and all the reminders about our live workouts as well. So if you're wanting another live event, our next one will be this Sunday at 3:00 p.m. Central Time, and we're doing a very interesting workout. So I hope you join me. Thanks for tuning in tonight, and we will see you back here soon.